What is it? What is it, Jeezy?
Where your favorite rapper at? I don't see that. I'm in the streets. Look behind me. Yeah, hip hop. I'm out here. Crip.
Rick Ross always finds himself in the middle of chaos, even when he's not trying to. One single bar from one of his biggest tracks had him tangled up with one of the most respected street crews in the country. And to make things even worse, that same line pulled him straight into a heated feud with young Jeezy. When their circles finally crossed paths, it didn't stay lyrical for a second. The situation turned intense fast. What started off as just another rap moment suddenly shifted into a real street confrontation that had the whole industry watching. Everything traces back to the summer of 2010, and it all blew up because of one record, Ross's massive anthem, BMF, Blowing Money Fast. That song was everywhere. Clubs, parking lots, late night rides. It was impossible to escape it. And then Ross hit everyone with that line, "I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover." It was supposed to be a salute to legends people admired in the streets, but there was one major issue. Jeezy wasn't just name-dropping BMF in his music, he had real ties. Jeezy actually knew Big Meech long before he became a superstar. Back in the early 2000s, Meech showed him true support, putting him in position, opening doors, and making sure he was moving through the right people so his career could shine.
Then he did the BMF song over, and they was beefing off of that, remember?
Yeah.
And then Jeezy did the BMF song.
It wasn't for image, it wasn't fake hype. It came from real loyalty and respect between them. So when Ross came out heavy with that track and started using the BMF name like it was just part of his persona, people in the streets felt a certain way. Folks close to Jeezy and those who knew how deep the history really went saw it as disrespect and stepped back like, hold on, Ross is doing too much right now.
He took a deep breath, but when he stepped up, he had to face me though, to get to Jeezy. And when he stepped up, I yanked his chains off.
That line Ross used wasn't just some random lyric. It was him stepping into a lane he didn't really come from, and people noticed. So when Ross dropped BMF and started shouting out names like Big Meech and Larry Hoover, Jeezy wasn't feeling it at all. To him, it looked like Ross was trying to profit off a lifestyle he never lived, and that rubbed a lot of folks the wrong way. Not long after Ross's record went viral, Jeezy fired back with his own track, The Real BMF, to make sure everyone understood the difference. Jeezy even added a real phone call from Big Meech, where Meech spoke on people claiming connections that weren't legit. It was smooth but powerful. The message was clear. Ross wasn't part of that inner circle. Then Jeezy turned up the pressure with his Before Dishonor freestyle over Ross's own beat. That's when he dropped lines like, "How you blowing money fast? You don't know the crew." It wasn't a full direct diss, but it hit hard. Basically saying that not everyone can wave the BMF name around like it's some trendy accessory. Ross later addressed it, calm and relaxed, acting like he didn't understand why Jeezy was frustrated. According to Ross, blowing money fast was just a mentality, not him claiming anybody's real story or position. He downplayed everything, saying the situation wasn't serious, even though the tension was clearly rising. Jeezy also tried smoothing things out later, saying,
In my words, I just feel like a lot of these cats are actors, rappers, and I'm Jeezy, you know what I'm saying? And they can never be me. But I assure you, I can't speak for everybody, right, but ain't nobody putting no hands on me.
I heard that.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't say that for everybody.
That's what The Real BMF wasn't meant as disrespect and that people were looking too deep into it. He claimed he just hopped on the beat because he liked the music and wanted to show appreciation. It's not a diss, he said. Jeezy basically said, "What? I'm not throwing any shade at that guy," and added that if Ross felt bothered, that was just insecurity talking, but that calm energy didn't last long at all. A few months later, Ross dropped his own track, The Summer's Mine. And this time, he went straight at Jeezy with no hesitation. Ross rapped lines like, "You throwing up sets, but you really from Cleveland? You just affiliated, really a water boy." And after that, Ross remixed the BMF track again, and from that point on, everyone knew they were officially going at each other for real. Jeezy had already done his own version of the BMF song, so once Ross fired back, the tension was undeniable. The shots weren't subtle anymore. This was real beef between two major artists. Then 2 years later, all that lyrical smoke turned into a real confrontation. October 2012, at the BET Hip Hop Awards in Atlanta, Ross and Jeezy's long-building tension finally reached its peak backstage. Reports say everything started inside the Atlanta Civic Center, and when both entourages crossed paths, the energy switched instantly. The industry hadn't seen a rivalry between two heavyweights get that intense in the middle of a major award show. 1 second the hallway was calm, the next second the whole spot was buzzing with chaos. Both Ross and Jeezy pulled up with deep teams, and what started as a few words quickly got heated. A little bump here, a shove there, and suddenly the entire backstage blew up with noise and movement. Security was scrambling trying to separate everyone. People were shouting, crews were trying to push through, and the whole area felt like it was ready to burst with tension. But it didn't stop inside. The commotion pushed straight into the parking lot. Things got even more chaotic as entourages jumped in and police had to lock down parts of the venue around 7:30 p.m. just to keep things under control. Within minutes, rumors started flying across social media and everyone thought something major had just gone down. Hot 97's Funkmaster Flex jumped on Twitter and claimed there were loud pops and people getting grabbed up, which sent social media into a frenzy instantly. By the time police finally cleared everything out, they confirmed there were no real pops, no arrests, and no serious injuries, but the damage was already done. The drama had spread everywhere. To make the moment even more surreal, the whole backstage mess exploded while a tribute to Chris Lighty was happening on stage. Fans inside had no clue a real confrontation was unfolding outside. They just felt the energy in the building shift like something heavy was in the air. Days later, wild stories started pouring out from every direction. Jeezy's bodyguard, Dredd, claimed he snatched Ross's chains during the chaos and took them to get tested, only to find out they weren't real. He even claimed he sold them and flipped the money into something else. The streets couldn't stop buzzing about that story. People were talking non-stop. But Jeezy didn't seem the slightest bit bothered after the whole BET situation. When he sat down with Big Boy on Power 106, he brushed it off like it was another day at work. He said the show was actually solid and that he and Ross simply crossed paths in the hallway for the first time ever. According to Jeezy, they exchanged a few words, but nothing out of control happened. He even said if something was going to get handled, that was the moment. But he added that it didn't need to go in that direction. Jeezy kept it completely honest. He wasn't about to force drama just to get attention. He called out rappers who act like cartoon characters to sell records, saying he wasn't falling into that fake wrestling style storyline. "I'm a boss, I'm a G, that's just how it is," he said confidently, making it clear he wasn't entertaining anything unnecessary. With time, everything finally started cooling down. By 2014, both Ross and Jeezy were ready to move past the whole situation, and a few key people in the game helped make that happen. T.I. had a real heart-to-heart with Jeezy, reminding him that nothing serious had happened that couldn't be fixed. T.I. told him, "If nothing happened that we can't fix, then let's fix it before something does." That message hit different. Around that same time, DJ Khaled stepped in as the middleman and arranged a sit-down between the two. Jeezy later admitted he didn't even remember what started the whole feud in the first place. He literally told Khaled, "I don't even know what we beefing over." And that convo finally ended one of hip-hop's longest-running tensions. Not long after that meeting, Ross and Jeezy shocked everybody by linking up for War Ready on Ross's Mastermind album. That collab marked the official end of their drama and showed real growth from both sides. Ross even said the whole feud was just a lot of misconfusion, adding that their reunion wasn't only about peace, it was about doing something big for the culture. But here's the real twist. Jeezy's original issue with Ross came from loyalty to BMF, and years later that loyalty would come full circle. But not in the way anyone expected, because not too long after the peace with Ross, Jeezy ended up having his own fallout with the same crew he once defended so strongly. Back in the early days, young Jeezy was still that hungry street rapper trying to break through. He had the voice, the drive, and the story, but he didn't have the reach yet, and that's exactly where things started forming between him and BMF, before everything eventually went left. That's where Big Meech stepped in and changed everything. Meech saw something real in Jeezy, that raw drive you can't fake, and decided to put serious power behind him. With the strength and influence of BMF supporting him, Jeezy suddenly had an entire empire pushing his movement forward. Meech wasn't just cheering from the sidelines, he was opening doors Jeezy could have never accessed alone. The BMF name carried major weight in both the streets and the industry. They pushed Jeezy's music in every club, backed his visuals, and made sure his sound was everywhere people turned. And when Jeezy dropped Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101, it hit like a street anthem the whole culture felt. Every line sounded authentic, and tracks like Trap or Die and Go Crazy became the motivational soundtrack for hustlers everywhere. Jeezy's rise lined up perfectly with BMF's golden era, when Meech and his circle were living on another level. Their bond wasn't just business, it was loyalty, respect, and real connection. Jeezy always spoke highly of how Meech looked out for people around him, calling him a solid person who treated his circle like family. Meech wasn't just a leader, he was a legend who made everyone around him feel like they were part of something huge. And nothing showed that energy more than their infamous Cancun trip. Meech didn't travel light at all. He brought around 300 people on a private jet, including Jeezy, for one of the wildest hip-hop vacations ever. Just picture that, a massive crew flying out together like they owned the world, moving with confidence and unity that nobody else in the game could match. Champagne flowing, pool parties running till sunrise, private villas full of music, jokes, and non-stop energy. That was the BMF lifestyle, and Jeezy was right in the center of it all. Every day felt like a scene straight out of a movie, and Jeezy was living it in real time. But he wasn't the only one who understood how powerful BMF really was. The entire industry felt their presence. Even 50 Cent once admitted he was stunned by how deep BMF ran the scene around 2003. He said when Meech and his squad walked into a club, not even Diddy could outshine them. They'd buy out the bar, grab every bottle in sight, and instantly take over the whole room. Their energy was impossible to ignore. But 50 played it smart. He admired Meech's empire from a distance, knowing that anything that huge and flashy was bound to attract major attention sooner or later. And he wasn't wrong. Eventually, federal agents started noticing what was really powering the BMF lifestyle behind the music, the fly cars, and the outrageous parties. Behind all that shine was a nationwide operation that was moving large amounts of product. Their flashy reputation made them a major target, and when the crackdown finally happened, it hit hard. Big Meech and his brother Terry, Southwest T, were taken in, and just like that, one of the strongest movements hip-hop had ever seen collapsed almost overnight. That's when the situation started getting complicated for Jeezy. When everything was good, he represented BMF proudly, shouting them out in his songs, rocking the brand heavy, and standing next to the crew that helped shape his come-up. But when the indictments dropped and the whole empire collapsed, some of Meech's people felt like Jeezy went missing. They started saying he took what he needed, the fame, the credibility, the shine, and then stepped back when things got messy. Over the years, folks connected to BMF stayed divided on it. Some said Jeezy did what he had to do to survive in the industry, while others believed he should have stood beside Meech no matter what. Things got extremely tense, so tense that, according to Jeezy's former right-hand man Clem, there was even a near confrontation with a BMF member that almost went completely wrong. People got into position, voices were raised, and it felt like the moment could go to a dangerous place fast. But Jeezy stood his ground, eyes locked in, fearless, refusing to back down or show any weakness. Thankfully, nobody pushed things any further, and the situation didn't spiral out of control that day. But even after all the tension, rumors, and years of people talking, Jeezy always kept it respectful anytime BMF, especially Big Meech, was mentioned. He never denied their connection. In fact, he consistently praised Meech, calling him a natural leader who shifted the culture forever. Still, Jeezy has made one thing absolutely clear. He was never part of BMF's street dealings. He said he and Meech were close, they kicked it, they showed each other respect, but that's where the line stopped. Jeezy explained that his success came from his grind, his music, and his own hustle, not from BMF's operations. The streets might have linked their names together, but Jeezy always claimed his lane was different. His life, his career, and his rise came from what he built, not from anything happening behind the scenes. Then in 2020, everything got stirred up again when Terry, Southwest T Flannery came home. And 50 Cent wasted zero time jumping right into the middle of it. 50 hopped online calling out everybody who'd ever been connected to BMF. Jeezy, Diddy, Irv Gotti, basically telling them to check in and show real respect to Terry for everything BMF gave to the culture. Jeezy eventually linked up with Terry, but he stood firm on his position. Respect is one thing, a debt is something totally different. Jeezy made it clear he never moved product for BMF and didn't even know Terry personally, only through Meech. But that explanation didn't sit well with everybody, especially the ones who felt Jeezy distanced himself from the same crew that once helped elevate his name to the top. Then came the massive BMF trial, and that's when things got messy. Some people started calling cap on Jeezy's version of events after former BMF member Ralphie Sims testified that Jeezy had allegedly received product from the crew back in the day. That claim rebooted all the old whispers. Was Jeezy deeper in the street side than he ever admitted? But not everyone was buying that story. Jabbo, one of the real BMF insiders who actually lived that lifestyle, stepped up and defended Jeezy. According to him, Jeezy was telling the truth. He wasn't out here moving product for BMF. He was simply around them, feeding off the energy, soaking up the lifestyle, and using the association to make his rap image stronger. In Jabbo's words, Jeezy was BMF adjacent, not BMF involved. That statement shifted the whole conversation, reminding people that being close to a crew doesn't mean you were part of the business they were handling behind the scenes. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, Rick Ross ended up building a tight friendship with Big Meech after Meech was locked up. Over time, their bond got stronger and more personal, but it didn't come without fresh complications. Ross linking up with Meech created a brand new wave of tension. This time, pulling Ross, Big Meech, and 50 Cent into the same storm, dragging the BMF legacy back into hip-hop's power circle once again. Just like that, the cycle of loyalty, conflict, and reputation started spinning all over again, showing that in this game, nothing ever stays quiet for long. Old problems always have a way of resurfacing, especially when big names and legendary crews are involved. So what do you think? Was Jeezy really as clean as he claims, or is there more to the story that never hit the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you in the next one.